I had been a practitioner of projects, implementing projects, and I've also done a reasonable amount of research, and I felt that I could contribute to the evaluation profession since I had the toolkit and the experience of understanding how things operate on the ground, as well as the analytical bent of mind to be able to address what evaluation looks to answer in terms of relevance, in terms of effectiveness, and in terms of efficiency. So I think putting those two together, I feel like and I've never regretted it since. I've really enjoyed the move to evaluation. I think it's in terms of trying to classify, codify linear models of change. I think there's a need to shift to a broader systems-based thinking to be cognizant of all the variables that impact interventions. And I think that shift in mindset is taking a little bit of time to shift from a linear thinking to a more systems-based thinking. I think sometimes we get too strung up on terms as opposed to concepts. And so the more we can move towards conceptual thinking as opposed to being strung on words like outputs, outcomes, etc., I think we should make a good shift in that direction. But I think most importantly for me, having worked on projects and as a practitioner as well, I think it's in terms of being able to influence project staff and making evaluation available to them in simple language and more as a common sense tool that should be regularly applied as opposed to a complex mechanism that adds one more burden to what they're doing. So I think the challenge is really to mainstream evaluation into project mindsets of project managers. I am a huge proponent of knowledge management and communication. And I think evaluations would be lost, recommendations would be lost, findings and conclusions would be lost if they were not communicated well in simple language to practitioners and to possible users of the evaluation. So I think the more we can actually focus on bite-sized knowledge products, because we're in an era where we've got a plethora of things coming at us all the time. There's a lot of information overload. So I think the onus is on evaluators to have pithy evaluations, to have good messaging, and powerful and few recommendations that are linked to conclusions. And I think if we can achieve that, I think people and project staff will have more faith in evaluations and actually use them more. I think it was a well-done study with a lot of challenges, given that several projects of the Green Climate Fund have just started and are currently under implementation. And that's always a challenge for evaluators. In the absence of evidence, what can you say? And I said, given the limitations of status of implementation of projects in the GCF, I think the evaluation was well designed and focused on issues like governance, as well as choice of agencies, issues like that, which were perfect for this stage of an evaluation. So I think it was, I'm sure the board has found it very useful. I think the evaluation field is ever evolving. I think it's becoming a little more sophisticated. I think it's growing in terms of the tools available, whether it's a blend of quantitative approaches like geospatial methods, good use of qualitative approaches. I think there's also recognition of the fact that evaluations need to recognize systems and that projects and things in life don't happen in isolation. And so to be cognizant of the world around you in which you're operating. So I think all that is progress in evaluation. So I think it's heading in the right direction. And I think conferences like this are a perfect opportunity to actually learn from others and be able to apply some of that sophisticated thinking in the work that we do. I think once again in climate change, the field of evaluation is again being changing, becoming a little more sophisticated, looking at the causes for climate change, looking at the links between climate change and development. For a long time, the environmentalists would only look at climate change in isolation. It's nice to see the dialogue now shift towards the link between broader climate change and development and its impacts. I think there's also a growing area recognizing the linkages between biodiversity, the chemicals, land degradation, sustainable forest management, and the implications for climate change. So I think people are evaluators are getting beyond just looking at climate change in isolation to recognizing the links between other environmental areas and climate change. My advice, just reflecting on my own career, I think it's very important for evaluators to have actual project and field experience on the ground. Because otherwise there is a risk of trying to provide evaluation advice in a vacuum. So having a few years of experience on the ground will actually give one a sense of what's truly evaluable and give them a real life perspective of the challenges and constraints to evaluation on the ground. The second thing I would say is to really equip oneself well with the toolkit of broad methodologies available out there. And in that context, not to extremely focus on either qualitative or quantitative, but to realize that one has to use a mixed methods approach and just being flexible in applying such methodologies.